Hey everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world and whenever you're watching it. I am so happy to have my guest today. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Joan Kling and I'm a leadership coach. I specialize in first-time supervisors and managers, and I call myself a self-leadership expert because I think all of leadership starts with self. And Gary and I met about 10 years ago. He was my teacher in a class for the executive leadership master's degree program that I was in at University of San Diego. Those of you that are not from San Diego, there's 3 schools with San Diego in it. So forget it, but we're the one up on the hill. And Gary, you exposed me to, still to this day, one of my favorite books, which is What Got You Here Won't Get You There, which we can bring in later. But for right now, would you kind of like to do a quick introduction of yourself?
Yeah, g'day, Joan. It's great to be with you. I often do my true introduction as, hi, I'm Gary Ridge, the consciously incompetent, probably wrong and roughly right, chairman and CEO of WD-40 company. And yeah, it was great to meet you back then in the MSEL program, and I still teach in that program, by the way, and we're now up to our 22nd or 23rd cohort. So, and that's where I met my dear friend and my co-author too, Ken Blanchard, who you met as well. So,
Amazing, amazing. So, Gary has written a book that I've posted a couple times. Helping People Win at Work. Don't mark my paper. Help me get an A. And this is a copy I have that is signed by both Ken and Gary. And so that's awesome because they were both teaching us that. I have so many questions I want to ask you, and whoever's listening, you can put some comments in the or questions and comments in the chat, and we will be able to see them. I noticed you also have a chapter in Servant Leadership in Action, chapter 42. So I got some questions out of there also. You talk about that you do servant leadership with an edge. Tell me what that means.
well, one of the things that really amazes me is that leaders don't understand that you need 2 things to be successful in business. You need a very strong culture, which is servant leadership, and you need to have a bold strategy, which is probably partly around the edge, if you will. But, it's a combination of being tough-minded and tender-hearted. And as you probably know, Joan, 70% of people who go to work every day are either disengaged or actively disengaged. And Aristotle said in 384 BC, pleasure in the job puts perfection in the work. So isn't it our job, our responsibility as leaders to create an environment where people go to work each day, they make a contribution to something bigger than themselves, they learn something new, they're protected and set free by a compelling set of values, and they go home happy. Because happy people create happy families create happy communities, and happy communities create a happy world. And by God, we need a happy world. So as a leader, we have a huge opportunity to make a positive difference in the world by practicing servant leadership with edge.
I so appreciate that you're saying that. It just is reminding me of like a pebble in the pond, that it just spreads out and spreads out and spreads out. And that our responsibilities as leaders is a great one.
It's a huge one. I mean, business has the opportunity to touch more people every day than most other, organizations. And we're not only we're there to help people step into the best version of their personal self. And you can be successful at a business doing that. We've proven it at our company, where over the past 20 years, our employee engagement now is 93%. 98% of our people say they love to tell people they work at WD-40 company. And during that time, we've grown the market cap of our company from just over 300 million to about $3.5 billion. So more than 10 times the value. And when you think about it, we just sell oil in a can, right?
Yes. And I was interested that your vision, because I love companies that have a quick vision you can remember. And that yours is, we're in the memories business.
Exactly right. We exist to create positive, lasting memories, solving problems in factories, homes, and workshops around the world. We solve problems and we create opportunities. And our just cause is to make life better at work and at home. And we do that, as you know, we call ourselves a tribe, not a team, because one of the biggest desires we have as human beings is to belong. Mm-hmm. And our tribal promise to each other is a group of people that come together to help both feed and protect each other.
Mm-hmm. I just think that you can't underestimate the need always, but especially in today's world, to belong. And with all the bullying that's going on out there, with all the competition, with all the negative, it's so damaging to people.
Yeah. Well, if you think about Maslow's hierarchy to self-actualization, the first two rungs of that, most businesses provide, am I safe and secure, and will you provide me with what I need to feed and protect my family? The next one is loving or belonging. Mm-hmm. And, as our friend Ken Blanchard says, it's a shame the only reason people know they're doing a good job is that no one yelled at them today. Mm-hmm. But, if we're going to build trust in an organization, which is so important, you've got to be authentic, you've got to be caring, you've got to be genuine, transparent, and vulnerable, showing your vulnerability. But more importantly, the three kind of foundations are belonging, empathy, and gratitude. Mm-hmm. So if belonging, knowing you belong, and belonging is, everyone on this LinkedIn Live today has either left a job, a party, or even a relationship because they didn't feel like they belong. Why do people leave companies? Because they don't feel like they belong. Mm-hmm. And I think it's something we learned that in MSCL around the power of gratitude. One of my good friends is Chester Elton. He wrote the book The Carrot Principle, and he just released a new book called Leading with Gratitude. Actually, his new book that's just coming out is about anxiety. But in his book, Leading with Gratitude, he talks about the power of gratitude. How do we feel when someone genuinely thanks us? I have this little game that I sometimes play when I was traveling, and before COVID, I used to travel about 200,000 air miles a year. And, I would check into my hotel late at night, and just by saying to the person behind the desk, I am so grateful that you're here to help me get to my room after an 11-hour flight, that got me more upgrades than anybody else, I'm sure. But it was...
Note to self, if you want to upgrade, be nice to the people behind the counter.
Mm-hmm. And I would say about that, oh, duh. Mm-hmm. So, and when you showed the book that I wrote with Ken, in our class, Ken was talking about helping people get A's, because he says life is not about some stupid normal distribution curve. It's about helping people get A's. And when he was a professor, he used to give out the final paper for the end exam at the beginning of the class. Mm-hmm. And the academics in the class would say, in the school would say, what the hell are you doing, Blanchard, giving out the final paper? He says, not only am I giving out the final paper, I'm going to help people learn the answer.
Somehow we lost it. We can't hear you. I don't know what happened. There you go.
Oh,
There
I
you
don't
go.
know. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I thought you were going to say you're on mute, which is one of the things I hear a lot these days. But Ken would give out the final paper. And what I realized and what became clear is in organizations, because we don't put clarity around expectations,
Mm-hmm.
we absolutely let people down. So that was the whole reason that we said, we're not here to mark your paper. We're here to help you get an A.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so regarding that, you have, well, before I get to that, the question I have is, I wrote down, how do you define culture? Because you define the culture of a company very specifically in your book. And a lot of people will say, oh, the culture isn't working. Oh, the culture is not good. But what does that even mean? And does it mean something different at every place?
Sure. And since we wrote the book, and I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek, he's a friend of mine, and in his latest book, The Infinite Game, I adapted something to what I believe is the algorithm of culture. And here it is. Culture equals, and the equal sign means happens when, parentheses, values plus behavior, close parentheses, times consistency. So what does all that mean? It means that if you have a set of values in the organization that set people free, and you have a leadership group that both care and love their people enough to applaud them and reward them around the values for good behavior, and to redirect them when the behavior is not in line with the values, and do it consistently, you build a very strong culture. And, if you were to think, Joan, about when we went to school, I know back in Australia when I was in my science class, they'd give me a little petri dish, right? And we'd grow culture in the petri dish. And what did our science teacher tell us to do? Watch that dish. If any antibodies get in there, be brave enough to get in there and take out the antibodies. So we as leaders have to be brave enough to be watching that culture around our values and the behavior of our people, and applauding the good behaviors and being brave enough to redirect the ones that need to change. And with that, you build a strong culture, you build trust, and you build an organization that's resilient.
Which brings me to another unique way that you do, because one of the things that my clients deal with is how to evaluate employees and how to have a difficult conversation. And especially when they inherited an underperformer, no one else has dealt with the person, and now they're stuck with them. But you have the team philosophy the tribe instead of team, and then everybody evaluates themselves.
Yeah, at the beginning you only do one employee review at our company, and that's your own. So at the beginning of the year, you sit down with your coach, because we don't have managers at our company. Everybody is a coach. So I'm the first coach to my direct reports. And the job of the coach, as you know, because you're a coach yourself, is not to run on the field and play the game. It's to be in the locker room and on the sideline observing the play, and then realigning the play towards the goal of the win, whatever that was. So at the beginning of the year, you sit down with your coach and you identify 3 to 5 essential functions from your job specification, because most job specifications are padded with stuff that doesn't mean anything. So what does this job really look like? So you identify 3 to 5 of what are the essential things that I need to concentrate on and to work on to be successful. And then you define what an A looks like. So if an A towards that walked in the room right now, what would it look like? Then the second part of the program is you then identify some specific goals that you may have for the year. They're more short term. They may be in the next 3 months. They may be for the year, probably align with some of what we call in our company must-win battles. And you identify what they are. And then finally, we list our values. And we ask people to reflect on our values and share with us how they've lived our values during the year. So once you've got that in place, then 90 days later, at least, or maybe even more often, you will sit down and you will grade yourself against what we agreed. And then, you'll have a conversation with your coach, and it might go, this is what an A looked like for this, and I'm not achieving it. And these are the roadblocks that are getting in my way. And as my coach, can you help me move those roadblocks out of the way? So our job, again, is to help them get an A. Mm-hmm. So by the end of the year, you've worked continually in improving or adjusting to ensure that you meet what we agreed were the outcomes that we desired. So it's not about marking your paper, it's about helping you get that A, and the key is to make sure the A is clearly defined in the beginning.
And like a joint responsibility.
A joint responsibility.
That you have agreed, this is what an A looks like, and this is where you want to head. Exactly.
So my job as your coach is to help you get there. Your job is to, identify what they are. The other thing that, you mentioned, one of the toughest things that we face as leaders is redirecting people. It's uncomfortable. We don't want to have those tough conversations. And it's usually us that are more scared to do it because we don't want to receive the reaction from the other person. But if you've got a set of compelling values in your company and you can use those as your guide, then it becomes a lot easier. And let me give you a really simple example. Our second value at the company is we value creating positive, lasting memories in all of our relationships. So some time ago, a while back now, I was in a meeting one morning and there was one of our tribe members in there who was definitely not creating positive, lasting memories. They were having one of those very, very bad days, right? So, how do you redirect that? So when the meeting was over, I said to the person, let's go for a walk. So we together walked out into our parking lot and I started to look under a car and look in a trash bin and look behind a tree and the person, what the hell are you doing? I said, Joan, the you I know and love was not in that room this morning. You weren't living one of our values, and I know how much you respect those values. Mm-hmm. What's on your mind? Mm-hmm. Are you okay? Mm-hmm. And then we had a conversation, and the person had a bad morning. To be honest, they got up and stuff had happened to them, and they just got put in a bad mood. And we agreed at the end of it that that sort of toxic behavior really wasn't living our value or that one of our values. And the person we hugged, it wasn't COVID time, and they said, thank you for the feedback. Mm-hmm. That person went inside and went to a couple of people that were at the meeting and apologized, said, look, you know what? Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, that wasn't me. And they were very accepting of his apology or her apology. The next day, there were people going to that person and just checking in on them. Are you okay today? Is everything all right? Mm-hmm. Good. We're happy. So, that could have been an ugly conversation. The opposite side of that conversation could have been, if we didn't have values to rely on, that behavior in the meeting was really unacceptable. Well, don't tell me that. I've had a bad morning. You don't know how bad my life is. But it wasn't that way. A set of values in the organization you can rely on, it gives you the opportunity to have those redirection conversations where you mean them no harm. Mm-hmm. You mean them no harm. And, opening up with that statement, the you I know and love was not in that room today.
So would you do that action just to your direct reports, or would you do that skip level? Or would you tell your direct report to talk to that person?
Oh, I think that coaching is a responsibility of all. Now, it would depend on the situation, obviously. Mm-hmm. I would hope that the person's coach would speak to them. Mm-hmm. But, I've had situations where, I believe that I could help someone and hey, let's go for a walk and have a talk. And, I've observed this, and, I'd love to hear more about it. And there's a great book out on coaching written by Michael Bungay Stainer called The Coaching Habit. It's 7 questions on coaching. And he's an Aussie also, but he lives in Canada. And his first question to people when he's in a coaching situation is, what's on your mind? And his second question is, and what else? So, our job as a coach in the organization is to get out of people what's really getting in their way. We're not going to tell them how to do it, but we're going to help them solve. And that is, better than I do, being a coach yourself, Joan.
Well, that makes me think, which I have to work with my clients on, is to work with silence. So when you say, when the tribe leader says, and what else? Or when the coaching habit and the guy in the coaching habit says, and what else? We have to wait and give them a second to think. Instead of being uncomfortable with the silence, I always tell my clients, sometimes silence is your best friend. Let it sit there for a second. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, we're there to create value, not to be right. So absolutely, asking people what's on your mind. Another question I love is, what evidence would you need to see to change your mind? And, in the absence of facts and data, we make up stories. We definitely make up stories. And, many of us have probably read, Who Moved My Cheese? Great little read. There's a follow-on to that called Out of the Maze. And Out of the Maze is really about asking yourself, why do I believe what I believe? Because so much today, and I think during COVID, it's been amplified because we haven't had the opportunity as much to bounce our thinking off other people as we would in a casual sort of environment. Something comes into your mind, you're starting to kind of, have a little bit of dwell time around it. You're thinking about it, and you're out in the cafeteria or in the break room, and Joan's there. You say, Joan, blah 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 blah. Well, what do you think about that? But today, because of this isolation, we haven't had the opportunity to test our belief as much as we have in the past, and that's dangerous. The other thing that I think is really dangerous, and I've written about this a few times on LinkedIn, is during COVID, everybody has been on their own personal hero's journey. And the person we said, see you Monday morning or have a good weekend to, over a year ago when we left them in the office, is not the same person that we're going to greet again when we go back, because we will all go back.
Oh, that's profound. That is profound what you're saying right now.
Absolutely. So we're going to go through re-entry, and I think about re-entry a bit like a space rocket coming out of the sky through the atmosphere to the earth. That re-entry in business, it's going to create friction. It's going to create, heat. It's going to be uncomfortable. So what are we going to do to reconnect as we return? And, we're going to do a few things at our company, intentionally to start to reconnect the relationships, because most of us don't know what went on in anybody's life during the last year at the depth we would know about it if we were having those conversations in the break room or at the water cooler or over a cup of coffee or at happy hour.
It reminds me of, almost like a reestablishment of trust. And I noticed in the Servant Leadership in Action, there is a chapter by Stephen Covey's son, who is Stephen Covey, The Speed of Trust. And I love that book. And I like how he said $1 billion deal could be done in the elevator, at the water cooler, because we had developed this sense of trust. Almost we don't even need to talk if you have come to that. Remember that? Yeah, I remember it. Then do you think okay, good, boom, done. And so to reestablish trust when we come back. And go ahead.
Yeah, there was a great piece on LinkedIn this morning from Simon Sinek, a little clip where he talked about, the future of work and how we could be fooled to think that in a totally virtual world, we could build trust. He said, a lot of us think that we've done very well virtually. And the reason we have is we built that trust before we went virtual.
Mm-hmm.
And you're rightly so. Trust is built at that coffee table, somewhere. And if people aren't getting back together and building those bonds, it's not going to be there. So we've got to be very deliberate about that. We do, as you know, John, we do employee opinion surveys, and we did one just before COVID, and our scores were as good as they've ever been. And coming into January, I said, although I don't think it's happening, I want to see if we've been draining any cultural equity. So we went out and we did a top-up survey just to see where our numbers were. And they came back and they were all as good as or better than they were a year ago. But one of them, or two of them, were really encouraging. Back in March last year, 94% of our tribe globally said they were excited about the company's future. In January this year, 98% of people said they were excited about the company's future. And I went, wow, it's gone up 4% in this time of roller coaster COVID. Anyhow, I actually went and had a chat with Ken Blanchard. He doesn't live far from me, and I see him very often. I said, what do you think about this, Ken? He said, it's trust. People now trust that if we can get through what we've just been through together, I'm excited about the future because we can get through anything. The other one that I loved went up 6 points, which was the question around, I feel informed by my coach. It went up from 89 to 95 or 96%. Which again made me happy because one of the things we've been really focusing on is let's make sure we keep communicating. Let's keep people informed. Let's not just tell people what we're doing. Let's tell people why we're doing what we're doing. Give them the reason behind the purpose. So that was pretty exciting.
I have several clients that just came in. Everything was fine yesterday and they came in today and total reorganization. With no notice at all. You're now going to work there. You three are going to go here. And I can't even fathom. I understand that there has to be things that not all employees get to know. But, hey, this is coming up. We're considering it something. It was just like a bus had hit them.
Well, you remember in MSEL, we went through a class on change. And the first two steps are information concerns and personal concerns. And the third step is when you go out and actually announce the change. Well, if people miss the first two steps, then when they announce the change, people get the shock that you just talked about. So, what's in it for me? How's it going to affect me? What's my what don't I know? So it takes a little longer to implement the change going through the first two steps because you've got to do it. But once you do it, its acceptance is amplified dramatically.
And there goes the axe to trust.
Mm-hmm.
It just took a swing at trust and broke it when you do something like that. Let's go to the comments. I see a couple things. My coach is here and he has a question, but before that, he does say that he loves, I hear so many people that love, including myself, that love Maslow.
Mm-hmm.
I used to teach it to my staff so they understood why people react the way they do and how we can work with them rather than against them. Yeah. And he has a question. Here's his question. Do you not feel that there is a fear from management to remove this bad culture these days in organizations, mainly for fear of reprisal?
Well, I think if this gets back to the conversation around what do we expect from each other, and I'm guessing reprisal means, they don't think they've been treated fairly. And the main reason people don't think they're being treated fairly is because there wasn't a clear expectation of what we were going to expect from each other. What do I expect from you? What do you expect from me? And how are we going to meet that? And, WD-40 is a great company, but it's not for everybody. And sure, there's people that have moved on from our company, but, we want to treat them with respect and dignity. And, if people are not performing and not happy in their job, we want people to be happy. So a lot of our conversations, get to the point where, you're not happy and we're not happy because we're not achieving what we want together. How can I get you to a place to be happy? Do we have to change your job? Do we have to put you in a new, or maybe this is not the place for you? And that's okay. That's okay. You're a great human being. It's okay. How can we help you be happy?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I love how in your book you call it, let's share you with our competition.
We'll share you with the competition. Yeah, that's it. Well, the other person I was going to introduce you to is this person.
Mr. Type A?
This is Al, the soul-sucking CEO.
Okay.
And Al has a number of behaviors that create these toxic environments. I'll share them with you. Al is the master of control. He must know it all. He really believes that he's the bee's knees. Al's corporate royalty, don't forget that. He has fought his way up the corporate ladder, and Al probably has the biggest office in the building, and he might even have his own private car space, So you need to bow down to Al. Al thinks learning is for losers. Why would you want to learn anything new? Here's the one that really gets his ego eats his empathy instead of his empathy eating his ego. So it's all about me, 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 me. Al has all the answers. He must always be right. He drives a fear-based culture. Mm-hmm. Micromanagement is essential. Mm-hmm. He doesn't follow through with his commitments, mm-hmm. and he hates feedback. You never want to go and give Al feedback because of it. Mm-hmm. And these are the behaviors that Al has. And these are the sort of behaviors that the soul-sucking CEO or the soul-sucking leader uses and creates these toxic cultures where people hate going to work. Mm-hmm. And why wouldn't you? Why would you want to go to work where that happens all the time? No.
So since I deal mostly with first-time leaders, that's where I love to work because I think they're forgotten piece of the workforce. As a coach, I don't get to say what I want to say is run, Forrest, run, get as far away from that person as you can. Just leave the organization. So I can't say that. So how would you coach a person who works for, what did you say his name was? Al, soul-sucking CEO.
Al, the soul-sucking CEO.
Soul-sucking CEO, okay.
The reality is you're not going to change them, and you deserve to be happy. Mm-hmm. So, Joan, you know what I would say? Run, Forrest, run.
Well, we kind of get to that. I kind of say.
Let me give you an example of something like this, and it's one of those precious moments in life. Not so long ago, I got a letter from someone that started off, "You won't remember me, however." And I was speaking at a conference in, I think it was Orlando. And during my remarks, I shared that our purpose in life is to make people happy. If we can't make them happy, at least don't hurt them, which is something the Dalai Lama wrote. And I went on to talk about, life's a gift. Don't send it back unwrapped. And if you're not happy in where you are, find your happiness. But you're not. So this person wrote to me and said, I heard what you said, and I left the job I was in, and I found my new place that's aligned with my values, and I'm the happiest person on the planet now. It probably saved my relationships. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And again, we deserve to be happy. So you're not going to change Al, the soul-sucking CEO or the soul-sucking leader, unless they want to change. And if they want to change, then they need the coach, not the person you're coaching.
And in reality, what is the likelihood of someone of Al wanting to change?
And Al can change. I've seen Al's change, but it takes brutal honesty. Sometimes it takes it certainly takes an intervention. Marshall Goldsmith, who wrote the book "What Got You Here Won't Get You There," has been the #1 executive coach in the world, and he can tell you stories about marginal Als that he's met and who have really accepted the fact that if they can have their people doing their best work, then they will get the best work done. And made them aware, and they've changed, and they've gone on to be very successful.
So the opposite would be a soul-feeding CEO.
Yeah. Do you want to know some of his habits?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't know there was a person. I thought I just made it up. Yes. Let's hear it.
Well, I call him the servant leader.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He involves, or she involves and loves their people, is always in servant leadership mode, is expected to be competent, is connected with emotional intelligence, loves learning moments, has a heart of gold and a backbone of steel, is a champion of hope, knows that micromanagement is not scalable, does what they say they're going to do, and treasures the gift of feedback.
Wow. Can you tell me, what does it mean by micromanagement is not scalable?
Micromanagement means that as a leader, you want to be in everything. And this was a huge learning moment for me many years ago. When I first was given the privilege to lead a WD-40 company, we were about the 5th of the size we are now in revenue and a 10th of the size of the company. And we had a dream to take the blue and yellow can with a little red top to the world. 80% of our business was in the US. And I said, how do we create an organization where people are free but protected, and we can't micromanage them? We can't scale that up. We have to empower people, not micromanage people. And as you know, I went back to school. I did the MSEL program, the one you did. I was in the first cohort. My final paper was, can I put a business model together to actually take what I've learned and put it into action? I did. And it says people, purpose, values, strategy, execution, and the learning moment are the other elements of it. And we put it to work. And that was the backbone of the whole building of the culture.
Awesome. At some point, Eric, a good friend of mine said, and I thought this was really worth noting, humility is a universal panacea. What are your thoughts on that, Gary?
Vulnerability. That's really what it's showing. Again, as I started off, I'm consciously incompetent and probably wrong and roughly right at most things. However, I happen to be the chairman and the CEO of a $3.54 billion company. How can a dumbass like me be that? Well, because I love the fact that if you learn 3 words and are true to them, and those 3 words are, I don't know, then you will gather people around you that do know what they need to know, and you will be successful. I get to stand on the shoulder of giants every day.
Exactly.
But I can't do it. I'm not that smart.
So then that also brings the point of which a lot of not only first-time leaders, but leaders in general have a hard time with the vulnerability or asking for help. To just say, you know what, I don't know.
And get comfortable with it. I mean, it's okay.
Exactly.
It took a while to get comfortable with it because you think when you admit that you don't know, people think less of you. They don't. It's like, okay, I can help you. Because once you say, I don't know, what happens? People want to help you. Hey, I don't know this. Can you help me? Oh yeah, I'll help you. But if you block that out and you know everything, then it's tough.
And it's being comfortable being uncomfortable.
It's okay. I don't know. It's okay.
It reminds me of the story you told us in class when you were teaching my class that that you were high. We studied, for those of you that don't know, we studied the DISC model of personalities or working types, and you said that you were really high D.
It was a turbo D.
Turbo D, and that you made a commitment to yourself that you would get a cup of coffee and sit and just chat with people until the coffee was done, and that it was excruciating because you're like, I have so many things to do. Yeah. So I thought that is being, there's two ways to get over the uncomfortability, little by little, or just push the arrow through.
Yeah. I was a turbo D and now I'm an I.
You're an I now?
Yeah.
Wow. Welcome to the greatest part of the desk.
There you go. And but I was deliberate. I mean, I used to have written on the palm of my hand, praise someone every day. My turbo D was be brief, be bright, be gone. And that was not going to work. So I had to deliberately change that. And I actually I like who I am now a lot better than who I was before.
So now, are you an ID?
I'm an ID.
Okay. My good friend is an ID. Yeah, and this woman I coached, the chief scientific officer, I said, okay, now we need to bring your I out. We need to calm your D down, because D is ready, shoot, aim. And I'm like, okay, let's think of it differently.
Marshall Goldsmith has a beautiful program called the Daily Questions. I don't know if you know about those or not, but he would have told you in the class that he has someone ask him a series of questions every day, and he marks himself, 1 to 10, 1 being low, 10 being high. And I have a list of 14 daily questions I ask myself every day just to keep me centered around what I want to focus on. And they are.
Wait, let me interrupt for a second. Who did you say had the list? Marshall Goldsmith. Yeah. That's in his book too. Yeah. Okay.
And it starts with this: did I do my best to? Not did I do, but did I do my best? Did I do my best to set clear goals, make progress towards those goals? Did I do my best to be happy? Did I do my best to live my meaning statement? Did I do my best to build positive relationships? Did I do my best to be fully engaged? Did I do my best to connect with family? Did I do my best to have some new learning? Did I do my best to walk 10,000 steps or more? Did I do my best to let it go? Did I do my best to assume positive intent? Did I do my best to listen with empathy? Did I do my best to forgive? And did I do my best to declare victory? And I ask myself these questions every day. And I'll scale myself yes or no, or 1 to 10. And it really, does keep me focused. One of the things that I struggled with was, did I do my best to live my meaning statement? And the reason I struggled with it is I didn't have a meaning statement. It said originally it was, did I do my best to find meaning? So I developed my meaning statement. And my meaning statement really drives everything I do. And it is, results of what I am doing matters to me and helps others. And I don't do anything that doesn't meet my meaning statement. If it doesn't matter to me and it doesn't help others, I won't do it. And
at home and at work.
At home and at work. And the reason I'm here with you today is because this meets my meaning statement. It matters to me to be able to share some of my scar tissue, and hopefully it'll help others make the world a better place if they can pick up some of the learning moments that I've been privileged enough to have during my career and my life, where we've been able to make make the world a little better.
I so appreciate you being here. Now we're kind of coming toward the end. Before we end, another thing I absolutely love that's in your book is situational leadership too.
Uh-huh.
And just to coach and to help somebody where they are is revolutionary to the people I work with. It's like, but even if they've always made presentations to city council and they do great, but this time there's a new piece of equipment, or they're back at the beginning stages. And so, do you want to talk anything about situational leadership?
Well, a great example. It happens to us all the time. You've got an app on your phone. You're highly confident you can use it, and you're highly competent in using it, right? Hey! And then they upgrade it. And now you're highly confident, but you're not competent anymore. So it's as simple as that. So, SL2 is a great language to be able to say, the enthusiastic beginner is someone who is highly confident but not so competent. So you've got to be a little bit more directive, where someone who is a 4, they don't want to be directive. You want to let them get on with their job. And if your leadership style is out of step with where their style is in the situation, there's going to be frustration. So, it's a matter of doing that too. And it's a great tool because it's a language, and it's not harmful. It's not embarrassing. It's just, okay, I can see you're really confident, but this is a few areas that we've got to get competent at, and let's work on that together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and at any time you could be in any one of the quadrants with your various projects.
Exactly, all over. The other thing too is, and we didn't mention, I'll just mention it real quickly, is, we say we don't make mistakes, we have learning moments.
Mm-hmm.
And the power of that is amazing, because one of the biggest disablers we have is fear. And, you don't see people, enthusiastically running down corridors yelling out, "I'm a failure." It just doesn't feel good to do that, or "I failed." So many years ago, we said, we're going to take the word failure out, and we're going to say, we don't make mistakes, we have learning moments. And a learning moment has a definition. It's a positive or negative outcome of any situation that needs to be openly and freely shared to benefit all people. So,
I love that you have a definition for it. I love that you have a clear definition of what it means.
So someone comes in and says, "Hey, I had a learning moment. Here's what the learning moment was. I want to share it with you so you don't have to have the same learning moment in the future." Or, "I had a learning moment. Here was the positive outcome if you can do this." And it was interesting because a friend of mine flew over to Hawaii just a day or two ago. And she wrote me an email, said, because we're planning on going to Hawaii in a few weeks. She said, "I got to share with you my learning moments about going to Hawaii. I thought I had it all squared away." And what they were 3 mistakes that she made, but she was happy and she was kind of enthusiastic. I want to share with you the learning moment because I've learned it, and now if I can share it with others, they're not going to have the same learning moment. And that made her feel good. I
love that. Like Ken says, each one teach one, that we are all, none of us is as smart as all of us.
None of us is as smart as all of us.
Yeah. So I wrote down that currently WD-40 is in 176 countries.
Correct.
And I read somewhere about a guy getting a python out of a bus.
That was in Hong Kong. There was a python that was caught around the suspension system of the bus, and they couldn't get it out, and it was stuck with friction. So the mechanics sprayed some WD-40 around the spring, which lubricated the spring, so the python was able to get out.
Oh, that's amazing.
But the funny one too is, years ago there was a nude burglar caught in a air conditioning duct who was breaking into a building to rob a building, and they were stuck. And when the fire brigade came along, they sprayed some WD-40 in the duct so they could slip him out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Do you have anything else you want to tell us? Any little words of wisdom, closing statement kind of thing? And then you can tell us where to find you. And yeah.
You know, I think what we've learned is purpose-driven, passionate people guided by values create amazing outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
And they create amazing outcomes for themselves because they're happy, and for the business they work in. And we all have an opportunity to make the world a better place, particularly now. So let's do that as leaders. It's our job to do that. So and have fun doing it. You know, as I said, life is a gift. Don't send it back unwrapped.
I love that.
And where you can find me, LinkedIn. I publish pieces on there from time to time. I have a website, www.thelearningmoment.net, and of course we're at WD-40. If you go to our careers page, and we're hiring for great tribe members, and there's a lot of squeaks being silenced out there right now. So we'd love anybody who's looking to join a great company. We have open spots there. So it's WD40company.com careers page.
Nice. Okay, then I am going to end the live, and you and I will be in the green room, so to speak, for just a couple minutes. Thank you, everyone, for watching, who's watching it live and who's watching the recording. Reach out if you have any questions. Have a great day. Bye-bye.